I am Catarina, and I am the head coach and I guess founder of Catarina Fitness. And today I'm chatting with Brandon. I know him as Tank, but I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself real quick.
Hey guys, my name is Brandon Williams. I have a bachelor's in science from The Ohio State University. I'm a certified personal trainer. I work in human mechanics, biomechanics, sports performance, youth performance, all that type of thing. So biomechanics and the way the body moves is really important to me. I'm certified in program design, program periodization, and yeah, I've been helping Kat a little bit with some of her clients and some of her athletes with training and whatnot. And yeah, we're a good 1-2 punch. So it's finally great to meet everybody that is getting coached by Caddy Lee.
Yeah, and I think, the reason why this is kind of special too is because you are building some programs out for me, and I really there's a lot of value in having good training programs. So the reason that this one's so special is because what we're talking about today is, the truth about how to build the booty, and that most of the women out there are doing wrong. And the rest of this conversation is going to be catered to women. So I'm not going to say call out women anymore, because this is just all about you guys. Because I've seen a lot of shit, and I used to believe a lot of things. And I feel like this whole conversation would be really well suited for girls who are doing the things that we're going to talk about. And we just want to be like, no, 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 no. So since he's writing these programs, for my clients, and I have had my fair share working out with him too, he knows his shit. And we're like, let's get together and chat about this, because we see a lot of this stuff. And honestly, if you're doing these things, you're wasting your time in the gym. And we all don't have time to just waste doing bullshit stuff. When we go there, your task needs to be executed, and no bullshit fluff stuff, because what's the point, right? We don't have time to just waste.
Right.
I can bet most people don't have time to just waste. If they want to go in there, they want to have an effective workout. So what we're going to kind of go into here is why this matters, right? So are you the girl that's using booty bands, maybe doing donkey kicks, or, my favorite that I see a lot of women doing, and I don't know if this was the whole prep phase or not, but you probably saw this too, Brandon, girls were always using the Stairmaster, and I was one of them, right? That was almost in a way, I was like, hey, I'm still building my glutes, because all bikini competitors need really great glutes. And I'm doing cardio. I'm getting the best bang for my buck.
Right.
Okay. So if you guys are doing that, you're using the booty bands for a lot of your workouts. You're following, and this is my favorite too, to see, and I kind of talked about this in my story yesterday, but you're seeing other girls on their Instagram posting their workout of the day. It's a glute focus, and they're just doing a bunch of banded shit. I hate seeing when they're get your glutes here, get your glutes this way. And it just irks me, because I'm like, no, that's not it. But most of the time, that is the stuff that looks really cute, right? Oh, it's just booty bands, yay. But honestly, building a booty is far from sexy. And honestly, you're going to probably dread what we're gonna have to say, because you're gonna feel like, oh shit, wow. So let's go into, the very first one is, why you're going to dread what we have to say is because this shit's going to take a while. If you truly want to build your glutes, it's just going to take some time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's with any, muscle group, whatever you're focusing on to bring up. Usually, first off, there's a weakness, right? It's not growing maybe your arms or your quads or whatever it might be. So we need to identify that, And the best way to identify weaknesses and imbalances, especially muscle imbalances, is to really come see, a fitness professional like myself and get an assessment, so we can understand where are you, because the biggest thing I hear all the time is, well, I squat all the time and my butt's not growing, my glutes aren't growing.
Right.
And my thing is, a lot of people when they're squatting, especially in the I'll say the general pop area, I'll even say with professional athletes that I work with, or even in the bodybuilding area, because the goal is aesthetics, right? A lot of people think they need to be lifting like a U.S. Olympic lifter, and that's not the case. It's the ask the grass or whatever like that. Is that where people still preaching that? I hope that's that theory
I
has
think
gone.
So.
I
don't know. I have some thoughts on that, because I definitely have been working on more depth, for sure.
You can work on depth though. This is what I'm getting though too. You can work on depth, but you also want to make sure you're staying in your range of motion, right? Because a lot of people, what they do when I brought up ass to grass, especially if they're not an experienced lifter or they don't understand their range of motion, if they're going past their ROM, range of motion, they start getting into their quads. They start getting into the lower back. And what are they doing? They're taking tension off their glutes. So you're not growing your glutes anymore. So if you're going all the way down and the tension's off your glutes, guess what? You're cutting that off. And now you're using your quads to help you get in your lower back, to help you get back up to where your starting position was. So to me, I always practice, and like you'll see, like your clients, you know, that you coach will see, I always do what? What do you always see like in my programs is what? Tension, load. There's an eccentric time, you know, the 4, 3, 2, whatever it might be. It's all based around timing because I want you to fall in love with your range, hitting your range of motion. Now that might look different. Our range of motions are gonna look different. You know, some people need to, you know, deadlift from a rack. Some people need to deadlift from the floor. Some people need to lift, you know, above their knee. Like it's based on your range of motion. And like you can work on your depth. Your depth will improve as your flexibility and as your range of motion improves over time, you know, because we don't want to take tension off our glutes.
Yeah, I would say too, like I've been working a lot more on depth because I spent a lot of time working on my core. So like where I started was I started shifting to goblet squats because I meet with James, right? And he was like, girl, you are in an anterior pelvic tilt all the time. So what you mentioned about like, yes, it is like your depth and it is, you know, what you can control like with your core, but also think about your pelvic position. If you're in an anterior pelvic tilt, you're already taking out that slack that could be your glutes. And anterior pelvic tilt, just to like get a visual of what that looks like, it's basically the standard bikini back pose, right? You have your low back arch, you have your chest up, like that is only tension in your low back and you're pulling it away from your glutes like you mentioned. So I spent months working on my goblet squat so I can also learn stability, get my core to stabilize with weight in front of me. And then I transitioned to overhead squats. I'm still not really dabbling into back squats yet, not my favorite. But like the point of that was to get the core together, to get my pelvic in a good position so that when I do glute days or when I have leg days, I'm not using other areas like my quads or my low back. It's to really work on the fundamental stuff. Okay, I need to change my pelvic position or else this won't work.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience when, like, especially me, I had to retrain. I was down in Miami all summer, you know, working with, you know, I was working with Timberland. I was working with, you know, some pro bowlers, you know, golfers, like everybody. And what we really experienced, you know, models, whoever came through, we really experienced is what, and, you know, when we post a video, people say, oh, well, his butt's not low enough. He's not parallel. He's not, or he or she's not at 90 degrees. That's okay. We want them to keep that tension in their glutes, get that tension out of their quads. I don't care. It's going to improve. I know we're stretching, mobility work, right? You practice that, you do that. And in practice of your range of motion, your depth is going to increase. It doesn't matter. What, like we said earlier, is probably just overkill at this point, but it's really important to nail in is that you cannot go past your range of motion. Not everybody needs to be squatting the same. Not everybody needs to be lunging the same. Not everybody needs to be deadlifting the same. Not everyone needs to be doing kickbacks or glute band work on the Stairmaster, whatever the hell that is. Not everyone needs to be doing that. I want people to really focus on time under tension and range of motion. Everything else is going to improve on its own. Yeah,
for sure. And like the theory behind like everyone's squats different is because we all have a different like makeup. So for example, like I am very long legs and short torso. That changes my stance position for my squat even. But I will say, like, think about it this way, like you're not going to always have your best form, right? Like where you're starting from, you want to, I truly think the goal is like to eventually get a full range of motion because that's more bang for your buck if you're doing squats because you're going through the whole entire motion. But if you're not set up and you're not using it correctly, your body's not positioned right, and you're starting out and you're just going to parallel, why not? Right. Like you're at least getting something. You could spend 2 years doing that before you could actually get some good depth.
There's been plenty of research saying that you don't need to go past parallel. There's plenty, unless you're in a competition of some sort. That's why I push is like, you know, I don't really push, you know, that, like I said, it's overkill at this point where it's just, if you're constantly going to your range of motion and not going past that, you're going to keep tension on that. What grows? How do we grow muscles, right? It's tension, right? It's constant tension over time. So if say like I can only come down to about, it might look like a quarter squat to somebody, but that's as far as my glute's going to load. I'm no good. You know what I'm
But
saying?
here's my thing.
Yeah.
How do babies squat?
How do they squat? Well, first they hinge.
Okay. But they also, when you see a baby pick up something, like they're squatting with their ass down, right? So we have the mechanics to do it. I think we veer away from that. Same thing as like, you know, when you're looking at somebody's alignment for a squat, or this is my perfect example when I do for clients is I'm like, hey, I want you to get into a squat like you're going to go shit in the woods, right? When we go to shit in the woods, we're not shitting with our butt up high or even at parallel. Like we're not even parallel, we're down below, right? So I think you have, like, that's the goal to eventually get there, but that's going to look different with the weight that you put on it. Like right now, I cannot do heavy squats going full range. No, it's not happening.
And I wouldn't want you to. If, like I said, if that tension's coming off, that tension's transferring from your quads, to your glutes, into your quads, we're not targeting the glutes anymore. You know, I know the squat's a full body, like it's a full body workout technically. Squat,
for sure,
full body workout. You know, and I know you're eventually gonna hit your quads, you're eventually gonna hit your hammies or whatever like that. But if the goal, like today's topic, is to keep tension on the glutes, you need to go to range of motion. I don't, personally, I don't care about you eventually squatting like a US Olympic lifter. It's I do a lot of aesthetics. Like I said, I do a lot of sports performance. That's not our goal unless they're Olympic lifter. I don't care. I want you range of motion because I know that's going to increase your flexibility. That's going to do everything else that we have to do for stretching and mobility work. So everything else is, like I said, it's over time. And you're, like I said, your goal of like squatting like an Olympic lifter is going to come. But what you're doing is great because you're addressing your range of motion. You're going to your range of motion, not going past that. You know what I'm saying? So that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Dude, it's taken me years to get here. This is 10 years of lifting, and I'm just now like working on full range. It's going to be like that. But what you
not my entire squat. Yeah.
But what you said, it's like, it's going to take time. It's like also about time. I want to go into our next point of like how to actually do it. Is you're going to have to have more rest days, 100%. Here's the thing. And I know you would be beating my head about this, but let's go back to like circa like Caddy, like maybe let's 2018, 2019. I was doing leg days 3 to 4 times a week. And then I was cycling. And I remember to this day, you were like, you need to stop hitting your legs so much. You're like, you're just going to keep holding onto fat there. Like you're not growing anything at this point. Like you're just abusing your body. And, those words have rang with me, and it might take me a couple of years for people to get through in my head. But 100%, like you're going to have more rest days. If you're truly in for growth, you can only recover and build as well as you rest days.
100%. Yeah, you're right. I remember earlier, when we first met up, at the gym all the time at LA Fitness back in the day, I would tell you all the time, like, ease up, like, because what you're doing when you abuse, when you overtrain the muscle to extent, especially when you're in such a caloric deficit,
right?
And how often you were training your lower body, what your body's doing. Because remember, and this is extreme dieting, this is competition, so this has nothing to do with the general pop, even other athletes. But when it comes to specifically bodybuilding, remember, now you're causing inflammation in your lower body, right? And so that's why, because, you would look great. You had the abs, you had the arms, you had the shoulders, you had the hair, you had the smile. And you'd be like, oh, my legs. Even though I was like, she looks great. But the reason why we weren't going to that next level was because we were attacking it way too much.
Yeah.
We weren't getting enough rest.
Absolutely. And honestly, you say, I don't even think this for general pop, but I think it is for general pop because that's anybody. If you're doing something that your body is not able to recover from, that's increased inflammation. Like that shit you got to get rid of. And when I started working with a different coach, and I'll never forget, he told me in my training program, he's like, I don't want you doing any HIIT, and here's the HIIT if you are going to do it. And I'm saying high intensity interval training. He's like, this is what we're going to do. And we actually shifted HIIT from being lower body to more upper body HIIT. And it was a huge drop in weight on my legs. So like, if you're the girl that was, honestly, like me, I was a track and field runner. My whole 10 years plus of my life were lower body targeting. I had to switch that in order for my legs to give a break. And that was the huge difference. So if you're sitting there saying I can't get my legs to shape and down, you should switch it. Try to switch your, do more upper body days, give your lower body more rest. Or if you are running a lot, change that up, do some upper body stuff, because if you take time off your legs, that's the better it's going to recover. And we know what inflammation adds, right? That adds water because we're trying to heal the area.
Yep.
So if you take that away, you don't need to cut any more calories. Like you don't need to do anything drastic. Make that little shift of more rest and you're going to drop.
Absolutely. You know, rest is the key to everything in life, it's the key to everything. You know, in nutrition with that, the proper nutrition too, like you'll get to your goals. But like I said, like it's just with guys who want big arms and big chest, right? Oh, I got a arm day every day. And I was like,
right.
Like, I don't know, for me, like, I've always like, that's some genetic, blessings and whatnot. But also at the same time, I also knew there's a point where your genetics can only hold up so much. And I had to get smart with my training and understand how the body, works. And it works when it works when you're sleeping, when you're taking those naps, when you're fueling it with the proper food, when you're hydrating it. Like it's a machine. It's way smarter than we are, right? It's
absolutely.
It's a well-oiled machine, or you should keep it well-oiled. So yeah, rest is key, man. And I always believe that. I know it's hard, especially like, we both play collegiate sports. Like it's hard for us to like take the gas off the pedal, like,
oh my God, yes.
I gotta be in there every day.
Yes.
I gotta be there every day. I got like somebody else is outperforming me. And when like you go to something, when you really start understanding how the body works and you really start accepting this lifestyle of health and fitness, like you understand how not just, and this personally, like stuff I went through last year, it wasn't just rest physically for me, but it was also rest mentally. And how important both of those things are into developing the person you want to develop and who you want to become. So like, I'm a big proponent of rest. I believe when you're in the gym and you have the distractions away, like the gym's me time. I hardly like to train with somebody else here and there because that's my personal time. So it's for me to put my phone away, put my favorite, playlist on. I have my, script written up for my coach or for my trainer what I need to follow, and I go to work. It's me time. And then after that 45 minutes to an hour of hard training and intense training, it's time to recover, it's time to rest. So rest is okay. Rest is good.
I feel like we could have a whole other conversation about the athlete mindset, and I would really love to. I had a, Facebook group chat with all my clients, and I got to talk to them about that athletic mentality. And dude, that's shit that I'm still working on today of trying to break those like mental habits that we had. But want to move on to the next thing of talking about like, and I shared this yesterday because like the booty bands and stuff, like that's great for primers. Like, and if you guys don't know what primers are, it's essentially like warm up, right? It's like if you are going into, it helps with activation. So it gets you to pay attention to what muscle you're going to be working as a primary driver. So for me, on all my lower body days, I choose banded good mornings. Like I just will always do, that's my like go-to is banded good mornings, because I really want to focus on my glutes and hamstrings there. And it's not actually about my back, which it could be like definitely a back workout, but I use that as like a primer for going into my deadlift and squats. And I don't really have any booty bands right now, but I'll do single leg hip bridges to really focus again on that connection of like, my hips are going to be the main driver in this movement. Wake up, get ready. This is what we're doing. That's when you should apply the booty bands and shit like that to like help facilitate what this movement is going to be. So the shit that's like actually works, like what truly works in building any body, building like for aesthetics, building for performance, it's always going to be the basic stuff that we all know and do, but we don't do enough of it because we think, oh, we need this shiny thing. We need this shiny thing. Like, no, it's deadlifts, it's squats, it's heavy hip thrusts, Bulgarian split squats. Those are the 4 off the top of my head of the primary drivers for building a lower body or glutes in general. What do you think about those? And if any other come to mind, like, what are you thinking?
Right. Those are good movements. You also don't want to isolate the glutes too. So like you said, muscle imbalances, right? There's always one leg. I know my left leg's a lot stronger than my right leg. My left leg's my jumping leg. So it balances way more easier. So I always believe in some type of, isolation work with either split squats. You mentioned Bulgarian earlier, lunges, things of that nature. I'm really understanding like the eccentric in that and feeling that and going, like, I'm going to preach this the rest of this Zoom call is, range of motion. I don't want you taking tension off your glutes. They're going too deep or you're going too high, or you're not going deep enough, or you're not going high enough. The reason why you're doing that, because it hurts and you can feel it in your booty, and I want you to feel it in your booty. Like that's where the tension's at. That's where you're going to grow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to make that mind body connection. You have to understand range of motion, where my body's going. It's okay. Maybe you're not where you want to be. Keep going. We're going to fix it. It's your range of motion is going to improve as time goes on. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So yeah, the squats, the deadlift, the lunges, any type of, like I said, it's range of motion, any type of combo or isolation movement you want to make, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it's for. So I love all those lower body movements, for the most part. There's very few movements where I'm just like, just based on the biomechanics of the knees moving, how the hips going. Yeah. Some things, I'm not going to bring them to light. But outside of that, I'm all about tension. I'm all about range of motion. So the squats, the combo movements, and the isolation movements, there needs to be variety. Even throw your plyos in. You also need to have, I think, a plyos day too.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think those are really good. Along with, you already mentioned the dynamic warm-ups. That's great. I really, really wish more people would start doing more dynamic warm-ups, start doing more stretching, beforehand. It doesn't always need to be a dynamic warm-up. No, you can sit there, you can spread your scapula. There's a lot of things you can do. A lot of figure 4 stretching of the hips, getting those hips, opened up and whatnot, but a lot of mobility work, a lot of plyos, along with, the weight training is a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned plyometrics, because I put that in as like honorable mention. I put belt squat because I don't know if a lot of people have belt squat. I don't have access to it, but if you do, like, that's definitely one. Split squats, again, that's still like Bulgarians in a way. And then I put explosives because, and this kind of goes to my next question I was going to ask you, which is totally off of like what we had planned to talk about. But my background is hurdling, so that's a lot of explosiveness. And I've always had girls like, my butt's always been a thing to other people, right? Whatever. So, I do play a lot of that into like the explosiveness of like how I trained for 10 years. Like that's, and I was a sprinter, like that quick reaction stuff. So I do think explosives, power and speed play a huge aspect into that too, because what's the ultimate thing that gets us moving forward? Like, what is the muscle that truly helps us take a step forward? It's our glutes. And when you put that on like hyper focus and you ask it to go like under, high speed, high demand, like 100%, I think that is very much correlated to my overall body makeup right now. But my next thing would be like genetics. How much do you think genetics plays into the ability to actually like get a huge ass?
Yeah. And just that, especially women or men, everyone has different hips, and, everyone stores fat in different areas. Most humans store fat, the middle, their, body, the midsection, hips, that's just where our center of gravity is. So that's where the fat goes to protect us and whatnot. We have, important organs around there too. But the genetics are big. If you want, like I said, like, I can't grow hips on you.
Right.
I can't make you have bigger hips, right? But I can form those muscles around, whatever the goal might be. That's, so it's just genetics help. But like I said, if you train smart, if you're with the right coach or trainer, if you're eating right, if you're getting the proper rest and nutrition, like, there's no reason why you can't get to where you want to get to. You look at those, like these Olympic track runners and whatnot, they have some similar body types, right? Huge lower bodies, very muscular, very thin, whatever it might be. It's just because they use those, they're so quick, they're using those fast twitch muscles over and over and over again, right? So they look like baby ponies, right? Their bodies are built, like the legs are insane.
Yeah. But here's the thing, they're also doing strength training. Like they have to be strength training. Like, every single person should be weightlifting, and your athletes you glorify, like, that's what they're doing. They're not going in there doing bullshit stuff. They're doing like the easy like movements if they're in rehab, and but they're working out very light and in their rehab, and we're not doing that.
If your goal is to grow a booty or whatever it might be, everyone should be squatting. That's not a debate. That's not an opinion. It's fact.
Right.
Everybody
squatting, deadlift is like my number one to me, but just because I think squats vary so much on people's makeup, like their length of their legs and shit like that. So for me, like deadlifts are my number one. Like you have to be doing that. I obviously want squats too.
But the squat are very, so should be, especially the back end of your, could look just like your deadlift, right? And like, so like to me, I don't see the squat and deadlift, you know, being too different outside of our starting positions. You know, like I wouldn't, if I have a 5'11" basketball player and I have a 6'8" basketball player, they're not going to deadlift the same. One's going to be deadlifting from the rack. Actually, since they're basketball players, they're both going to be deadlifting from the rack. But I'll tell you, okay, so if it's a 5'11" bodybuilder and a 5'11", this is a bad example because I think a lot of people should be deadlifting from the rack, unless you're an Olympic lifter. But what I'm saying is, like, depending on like what you were mentioning earlier, your genetics, your makeup, whatever you are, how tall you are, how long it might be, like a lot of people's squats and deadlifts are going to be different. You know, not everyone's going to have the same deadlift. Not everyone needs to be deadlifted from the floor. You know, it's like not everybody needs to be squatting against the grass. Like it varies. So it's really, I'm very particular with that because a lot of people get hurt because they're trying to do something that their body just isn't ready for. That's how the body breaks, right? Constant tension, constant pull, too far range of motion, and it breaks. And something happens. They're like, oh shit. And now I'm in PT, you know, some boring ass PT guy making me do all this boring stuff, who's out of date, who's out of whack. And like, now I hate it. I'm not even showing up to PT anymore. You know, and then like, I'm sure you've seen clients like that skipped out on PT, didn't finish PT, and then they come to me, I got to fix them. I'm like, I can't.
Well, I was a PT, right? That was my initial career.
You need to go finish PT first and then come to me. Yeah. Right. So you've seen it. You've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what we dealt with was like in the clinic for physical therapy was people deadlifting or squatting and they were doing too much that their body wasn't prepared for. So honestly, what we did was a lot of core work and building up that core, because a lot of people are just like, oh, abs. Yeah. Like I need abs, but like your core is much deeper. And honestly, we pull back and we focus on the pelvic tilt of like getting your hips set up. That's probably one of my biggest things as a coach is when I'm looking over training videos for my clients is I'm looking at their pelvic tilt, because if they're not in a neutral pelvis and they're immediately going into a lower body movement and they instantly tilt their pelvis forward, I'm like, you just lost it. You just lost it.
See that butt wing? Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as that's an easy sign right there. And that's very good. That's a good point you brought up. That's the tilt. You see that butt wing at the bottom of the squat because they can't get that up using their glutes. And that's the number one key right there. That should be like, okay, we need to take your squat and your deadlift, throw it in the shredder, and start all over again. Because that butt wing should be in that tilt, that butt wing should be the initial cue to be like, this person's not using their glutes anymore. They're out of range. They're using their quads, they're using their back, they're using other muscles right now. And they're taking the tension, since this is about glutes and the booty. They're taking tension off the glutes. And like I said, using other muscles to help get that up. You'll even see that with powerlifters, right? I wish I had a better background, but get my paintings up later. But you know, you'll see that with a lot of powerlifters where they get in a position on the bottom of the squat, and on their way as they're coming back up, as they're ascending, what do they start using? That lower back. You'll see it. They know it. That's why they have strong lower backs, right? That's why they have big huge backs too, because they're using that weight to help them get back up. They're not using their butt anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the thing too, is when you're looking at Olympic powerlifters or you're looking at people on their meet days, like their form isn't good. It can't be because they're trying to do a PR. Like they're trying to push their body past their limits. Right. And your body is smart. It's going to take you out of form to do whatever to achieve that movement. So a lot of people look at like, they do know their form and technique very well, but once they get to that point where they're hitting PRs and asking their body to do what they haven't done yet, it's not prepared for it. So it's going to compensate at any point. And that's why a lot of powerlifters and stuff like that should be working with somebody that can help them with their movements, because at some point, they're beating themselves up with improper form. But the next thing I want to talk on, real quick, is just like the actual fact of doing heavy weight, because I'm so tired of seeing girls and they're just doing bitch ass weight. And I'm so serious about this. 10 pounds, they're doing the lunges, the cute shit. And I think it's mostly just because women are so afraid of lifting heavy that, I'm going to get bulky.
You're turning something.
And I posted this, just the other day too, on one of my like fitness myths for women is like, find me a woman that is lifting really fucking heavy, 1 to 2 times her body weight, that looks manly. If she isn't taking steroids or any performance enhancing drugs, that will, we get that. That's going to be the case. But find me a girl. You can't. There's hardly any girls out there. And I've been lifting for 10 years. I haven't always been lifting heavy. It's something I've been focusing on the last couple of years.
Right.
But I still don't look manly. So I just think it's something that's holding a lot of women back. And the only way you're going to actually grow is if you spend time, like seriously, we're looking at 2 years plus to truly grow a muscle, especially the glutes, and having to do heavy, like progressive overload, like write in your notepad, like if you are somebody that's not, working with one of us that doesn't track their like workouts, like track the weights that you use and try to hit that or more as you keep going through, again, with good form, and like try not to bust your balls every workout, a 10 out of 10 workout. We don't want that, right? But actually like try to lift heavy and go from there. Like,
right. So so there's 4 groups, right? There's hypertrophy training, which a lot of us work in. I work in, I love it. A lot of general public, a lot of the athletes work in, that's where we normally, people who just want aesthetics, that's where we work in, is hypertrophy training. There's absolute strength, there's relative strength, and then there's power, right? And like, once you realize what block you want to work in, usually I would say absolute hypertrophy, that's more for, us, general pop, team sports, anything outside of powerlifting, competitive like lifting, things like that, so it's just like, you have to understand, and that's where it comes into, you have to have a coach who knows how to program design, right? You really have to understand, like, okay, there's blocks that add up everything together. So, I'm not just talking about your training block, but I'm just talking about periods within within your training to get to a certain goal. Now, training intensity, I think is what you're more getting at, is like slowly increasing the weight. Like, I'm going from like 5%, 10, 15, 20, whatever the percentage might be. I'm making sure it's increasing over time, right? So I don't mind, like, if her form's off and it's shitty, and I see that, that shin that's staying vertical, I see the knee moving all over the place, I see the toes or the heel, any part of the foot coming up off the ground, I see like she's not even like really, her depth just isn't there. Like, I'm okay with somebody picking up a 15, 20-pound weight. I had to do it. When I was down in Miami all summer, learning from the best in the world, like I had to go, it sucked. It was embarrassing. It was humbling because I had to get an assessment, my range of motion, and things I thought I was really strong with, I was not at all. It was a humbling experience. Understanding that, and then when they designed my program to help correct things, like I had to drop the weight. I had to, swallow that pill and be like, all right, I have to drop the weight. Now, back to your point, I don't want to get too off topic. Back to your point about increasing over time. Yes, that's needed to grow. That's needed to grow. Like, you have to put tension on that muscle. You have to break down that muscle and build it back up with rest, nutrition, all that stuff. But it's still, for anybody, and most of your clients, I think, are in the general pop, for anybody in that area that's just in the general pop working on their aesthetics, the hypertrophy range is where you need to be at. So if I write a program for you and it says, hey, you have 5 sets, I need 8, 10, 12, whatever amount of reps I need you to hit. If you can't hit those, you need to drop the weight. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how much, like, you're not a power lifter. Our numbers don't matter here, right? We're doing it for a specific look or a specific reason, for performance reasons. Don't fall in love with the numbers. You got to tuck that ego in at the door, right? You got to tuck that in. But as you get stronger and as your range of motion increases and as you see your depth increasing, that's when you need to turn up the intensity and start challenging yourself mentally, physically and spiritually and all that stuff like that, and push the weight. So yeah, don't be afraid of the weight. As your range of motion improves, as your form improves, that's when you start increasing the weight. That's how you build that big old boom.
Yeah. And I would say too, like, the feedback you get from working with somebody, like, you're an in-person trainer, like that's your thing right now. And then I'm more of the online space. So, like, I can just think, for example, I had a client send me a deadlifting video and I saw her move through that with very little effort. Not that she wasn't trying, like, it just looked very easy for her. I was like, your form is great. Like, here's a couple things you can work on, but otherwise, like, your form is generally great. I was like, you're moving through that with ease. I was like, you can go up from here. She's like, she's like, oh, thank you for saying that. She's like, I was just so scared that, I'm going to hurt myself. I was like, if you work on those things, like, it's okay to be at this way if you're really scared, but I'm giving you feedback right now. I'm saying, like, you can try now. And I think somebody giving you that feedback of like, everything looks fine, like, go ahead, like, try. And if it's easy for you, like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, let's move it up.
And that's the importance of having a coach, right? I have a coach.
Right,
I have a nutrition.
me too.
You know, that's the importance, because sometimes we get into our own heads and we're like,
right,
I shouldn't move up anymore, or I don't know about this, or I don't know how to look. Like, that's when you have that second pair of eyes that can watch your form, that can see your body, that can see you changing over time. You know, that can, you know, they give you that confidence to move forward. Like, you know, that's where you come in, and that's where I come in. Like, that's great to have, man. You know, like, that's the real investment you're getting out of a coach. Not only the accountability, but like, you know, that extra push. You know, so I totally agree.
Yeah, and we can be our own like biggest blocker, like our own limitation is like what we
1,000%.
believe in ourselves or what we think our potential is. Like, I kid you not, like the reason I was so successful in my college athletics is because somebody else saw more potential than I saw in myself.
Right.
100%. Like, I wouldn't have had achieved what I had if I didn't have a coach pushing me that said, like, you can be this. Like, I'm going to push you to be this because I know you have it. And I was like, whatever. Like, I'm just little old me catty. Like, no, like, if somebody else saw the potential in me, like, they're going to help get me there. And I think that that's huge. So I love that we just hit that point unintentionally, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to go into the favorite one, talking about nutrition, because this one is another one that's a big thing I see is if you're always in a calorie deficit, you're always trying to lose weight, you're not gaining. Like, you're not truly gaining glutes. And you're asking your body to kind of do two different things, right? You're asking your body like, hey, lose some body fat, but also like stimulate growth in my glutes. Like, the amount of times that can actually truly happen,
right.
I would say is for somebody that's a novice, right? Like somebody just getting into weightlifting using resistance, like that's a thing. But if you're somebody that's been training and you've been doing your own thing for 2 to 5 years plus, you can't do it. It's not happening. So actually spend time eating the food, like maintenance, or even a slight surplus. And I know a lot of women are afraid of like going into a surplus, like eating extra calories, but it is super beneficial. If you're training hard and you're going 3 to 5 times a week, and like how you said, you go in there, you zone everything out, and that's your time you're putting your effort in. If you're doing that and still being super active, you can push your calories up.
Oh, I tell people, I worked with one Olympic rower. I have a buddy, Carlin Isles, shout out. He plays for the US Sevens, their US Olympic rugby team. You know, I met a couple swimmers and rowers, and you guys would be shocked how much food they eat. And these people look amazing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need to go into, this is not like a big nutrition, you know, subject today, but like, you'll be amazed about what your body can do and what it can digest and what it can soak in and turn that into fuel if your training intensity is where it needs to be. If you're training smart, if you're, like I said, if your intensity is, you know, where it needs to be, you're not going to store that potential energy, AKA fat. You're not going to store that, you know? So like you mentioned, a lot of people are afraid to push that, maybe because, you know, they're not pushing it as hard as they should be in the gym, or they're training, or they're overtraining, or they're under, like it does. We got to find out what it is and then correct it. But yeah, the nutrition part, like, unless you are what's the word? An advanced athlete. Is that a good word? Advanced athlete,
experienced. I don't
know. No, I'm not talking about. Okay, unless you're a drug-free athlete, unless you're not a drug-free athlete, if you're, you know, you're on super supplements or whatever you want to call them, you know, you're not going to lose weight and build a booty. Like that's just the facts. Like, you can't, like you mentioned earlier, you can't be in a caloric deficit and put on mass at the same time, unless you know what I'm saying? Like, not a natural athlete or human.
And at the end of the day, like, an ass is fat. Like, you're going to have some body fat on you to have an ass.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too. Like, my last show that I had, we dieted down really, really well. And like, here all this time, I thought I had these great glutes. And like, the feedback that I got was like, oh, you need bigger glutes. What's funny is if you don't have the muscle build up, like, if you don't have it build up and you just go right to losing fat, like, you're going to look like you don't have a lot going on, right? It's not going to look like you got a big dump in your trunk. But if you spend time like actually building that muscle, and then you can add some fat onto there, like, yeah, that makes it like plumping up there. But the whole thing of it all is like, you have to have some body fat. Like, for girls that think they can be 0% body fat and still have a But
No,
don't
no,
I don't like saying that, but like you
yeah,
have to have the fat there.
yeah, you got, I mean, like we talked about the, just look at the women, USA team, like the sprinters and whatnot, like they have giant glutes, they're shredded and whatnot, they eat plenty of food, but it's just like, it's not, and that's the thing, you have to pick and choose. Like you can't be, I mean, I know Instagram is, and social media has really messed a lot of people up about looking like these virtual creatures with these tiny waists and huge asses. And, everyone's now quitting and getting BBLs and things of that nature. Like it takes time, you know what I'm saying? Like to develop hamstrings, develop muscle mass. You're creating new tissue. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, just think about that for a second. You're creating new muscle tissue. So it's going to take time. And like I said, if you don't care about having like shredded glutes, which I don't give a shit about anymore, if you don't care about that, make sure you're in a caloric surplus, make sure you're lifting with great intensity, great form, a great program, and follow through and just stay dedicated. I hate to make it that black and white, but like, yeah, you can't eat peanut butter and celery and think you're gonna grow a booty. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It ain't gonna happen.
And I just looked it up here. I was just interested because I thought I saw something somewhere, but Olympic sprinter athletes actually have up to about 20% body fat on them. So like everyone's trying to be like single digits. Like, okay, even the most elite people,
they need that
they need that fat, like that 100%. So let me go back to a little bit of my notes here. I think the last thing I wanted to mention, I mean, I guess I don't. I think we hit all of our points other than the Stairmaster. That is one thing I want to hit on. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's good for conditioning purposes. It's a great piece of cardio equipment, but if you're looking to build, I mean, no.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like you're not building muscle that way. You're not doing that. You're not.
It's cardio.
I was on the Stairmaster this morning. It's cardio. It's a good sweat. It's just climbing steps. You can go as fast, as slow as you want to. You can push through your foot as much as you can and try to activate that glute as much as you want to. You're not building. You're not doing anything.
No. It's just cute.
No, that's like somebody that, what are you want to walk? You want to run? You want to sprint? Whatever. That's not building muscle tissue. You're not building muscle tissue in that,
Right.
So, and it's a movement, you do every day, like walk up the steps or, walk, down the garage or whatever it might be. So your body's, and you've been, if you're blessed to walk, everyone can walk. So, but if your body, if you're in your mid 20s by now or early 30s, like your body's been so used to going up and down steps, like, how many steps you would have to freaking climb to, I mean, even then you wouldn't even grow a booty. You just get super skinny. You probably eat, you go into catabolic and start eating your muscles. So short answer, no, it's not a muscle building booty machine. No.
Yeah. My last point here, and I'm just going to say this because I feel like this needs to be said for, women, but I know we're talking all about like growing your glutes and like doing something to change your body and grow a certain area. But there is much more to you than looking to change your body to be a certain way. Like it's cool and awesome to do that stuff like for your health, like deadlifting and like doing what we're talking about is just in general for good health and well-being. Not always for the purpose of like changing your body or trying to manipulate yourself a certain way. Right. There's other ways you can do that, right? Like if you're like, don't really want to focus on changing your body, you can still focus on like, hey, I want to do squats and deadlifts to just get stronger or be more comfortable with higher level movements. Like what we're talking about, like want to be able to go from working with the lightweight to going up to adding some plates onto your movements, like trying new lifts. Like for me, like I'm experimenting with overhead squats. Like it's something very new to me, but I'm like, hey, I like this. It's something new. Having better stamina for your workouts or your energy throughout the day. Like these are all things that can just be applied to just your health in general. Like you don't always have to be chasing to make your body look a certain way. But if you do want the glutes or to manipulate a certain way, all these things are super helpful that we have all seen people do the wrong way. And the Stairmaster one, I was just sitting here thinking too, like lunges versus Stairmaster, what's the difference? But the difference would be is that you have rest intervals. And that's the important part of building to that. I don't think we kind of talked on it, like rest, like in general, but like the rest intervals for your lifts. Like you can't be supersetting like cardio every single thing, every single time. Like you have to have that time spent.
Right. I don't think whoever's, asking the difference between lunges and steps, like for me personally, like my foot's 11, 11 feet. So like it can't fit entirely onto like the little stair stepper thing. I'm really pushing off the ball with my feet and really using my quads, and I'm leaning over half the time, to be honest. Whatever, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm leaning
hey,
over.
We don't want that.
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever. I lean. So I'm leaning and I'm pushing to the top of my foot anyway. So I'm not really activating my glutes. I'm more using my quads to get me through that cardio exercise. So with the lunge, man, you should be, I think most people should be lunging in their socks or barefoot. You should be pressing through that entire foot. Your foot should be, spread, like your toes, just like your hands should be spread on the ground. You should be pushing through that entire foot. So there's a difference. And you have weight, or you should have weight, or you're developing to get weight. If you're at weight on the stair stepper, you look like an idiot. I'm sorry. I
right.
do this because you look like an idiot. So don't do it. But yeah, there's night and day difference between lunging and stair steppers. So always go with the lunge if you're looking for the booty.
Yeah. And just going to recap all that we talked about, because we did hit a lot of points here. And I think we have some other conversations we could definitely talk about,
for sure.
Like the athlete mindset, like all that stuff too. But essentially, like if you do want to start focusing on growing your glutes, you're going to have to spend time resting, pull back off training legs 4 times a week, because that's what you think you have to do. Because, the more I work them, the stronger they'll get, the better they'll be. Not the case. Eat more, right? Stop being in a calorie deficit and trying to achieve a goal of growing your glutes. Like you can't ask for 2 of the same thing. Right. And to be honest, you might only think that your glutes are more apparent when you're in a calorie deficit. It's just because you shredded some body fat off of them. So, okay, they're more prevalent. Doesn't mean they're actually bigger or stronger by any means. Right. And the basics are tried and true. They work. They're boring, right? You might have to be doing the same training program by Brandon here for the next 12 weeks. The same thing. Right. That's how you'll get it. It's boring, but that's the shit that works. But it doesn't sell, right? Right. It doesn't sell as well. And spending time, it's going to take 2 years. You got to keep working at it. There's nothing wrong with also shifting your focus from, deadlifting one way to back squats to front squats. Like you can move through those in your training program, all for the purpose of improving that general lift. But it just takes time for sure. Absolutely. Those are all great points. Like time, patience is key, consistency is key, and really sticking with the program, man. Like see it all the way through. Don't get on YouTube or Instagram. You see some girl, tying some booty band to a Smith machine, and she's doing explosive, Bulgarian split squat lunges or whatever. Like stop. Right. Really think about. I'm bored. Yeah. Well, I'm bored. It's whatever. Get, fall in love with the process. Once you start falling in love with the process, instead of worrying about the end result, you're going to get somewhere, and that's a big thing that I've been taking, this past years, fall in love with step 1 and step 2 and step 3. Don't worry about the finish line. It's going to come, so like you said, growing muscle tissue, growing a booty, you need to be in a surplus. You need to be training with high intensity. You need to be training within range of motion, and you need to be resting. So, those are all great points. Yeah. Awesome. So if you guys have, any questions from us, if you found this valuable, if you want to hear more things from us to talk about, let us know in the comment section when we drop this. And then, let's do some more of these because it was fun. Thank you so much, Brandon. Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you. Bye. There goes a sight from my soul.